Patrick Dorr. I was born in Kings County Hospital, which is in East Flatbush, and then we lived in Bushwick. I grew up mainly in East Flatbush, though. So my mom's name is Ann. Her maiden name was Ann Lee Gerald, and my dad's maiden name was Ambrose Francis Dorr. Super Irish. Well, my mom's still alive, so she still is. My dad died when I was 14. They're amazing. My dad is Irish American, second generation Irish American. My mom is African American. They met in Bed-Stuy in the early 60s. Bed-Stuy was still a neighborhood in transition from working class Italian Irish to African American. They were both young, super young. I think my mom was 21, my dad was 22. Working class, poor, young people that fell in love in a time when, interracial dating was kind of forbidden. So they were courageous, man, and they were special folks. We lived on Bleecker Street in Bushwick, and this would be in the early 70s. And kind of what I remember is like, one of the earliest memories is playing stickball. My older brothers, I have an older brother, and it was like, it was a real multicultural situation. We lived on a block that had a lot of Puerto Rican families, some black families. There was still some Jewish and Italian kids. As the neighborhood was still transitioning over, some Irish kids. I just remember my early memories of like playing stickball and it being like kind of like the UN. Back in the day too, it was kind of dangerous, man. It was, this was also before glass bottles. You still use glass. It's not before glass bottles, before plastic bottles. So people still use glass for soda and so on, and people would throw those. And the streets used to glitter with broken glass. Literally, it looked like diamonds. And there was no pooper scooper laws, so there was a lot of shit. So if you fell, you were going to get cut because there was nothing but glass on the ground, and there's a good chance you were going to step in some shit at some point in the day. It was a different environment, literally physically different environment, but also, so some of the earliest memories are watching the streets glitter in the summertime with the broken glass, playing stickball and like all the street games, tag and Ringalivio and Cocolivio, stoop ball, running around the streets. And that whole idea of like the neighborhoods being sort of still multicultural, like everybody that lived in Bushwick at that time were working class and poor, but it wasn't racial, it was working class and poor. It's changed tremendously since I was a child. Brooklyn used to be the spot that, people feared. Brooklyn had a reputation for the rest of the city, and I think worldwide as being, it's Crooklyn, man. It's a dangerous place. When I was growing up in the, 70s and 80s, there was crime and there were gangs. But there was also, I feel like, very distinct neighborhoods. It was really clearly defined by neighborhood. You knew what neighborhoods you were in and how to act accordingly. Brooklyn now, obviously, is something very, very different. It's become colonized and gentrified. A lot of the original, I feel, culture that made it such a iconic place to live, such a coveted place to live, and so much culture, so many movements have come out of Brooklyn. I think that's all getting lost now because of the influx of the young white people from around the country and the world who've settled here in the last 10 years or so. But I'll speak from a personal point of view, and best way I could sum up is say, first came the hipsters to tame the land, to pacify the natives, the original man, and then the settlers and homesteaders brought the cavalry to stop and frisk me, to make it safe for the yuppies. And now I don't recognize the block where I was born. They came from the places with backyards and big lawns like West Bubblefuck, Michigan and Okie Dokie, Wisconsin, moving in like they slumming. They keep coming now. My culture been rezoned. My house ain't my house and my home ain't my home no more. They brought in their money and moved out the poor. They raised up the rent and changed the locks on my door. And now I ain't welcome in the corner store no more. Yo, on my block, we got yoga spot, pet grooming, and Starbucks. And since when did the ghetto get trendy? They're making me homeless and smiling all friendly. They smile in your face, and all the time they want to take your place. Gentrifier is a liar who will conspire to take your home, your earth, wind, and fire, and you wondering why your rent's raising higher and higher? Because these are the days of the gentrifier. Gentrifier got this thing on lock. My home, my zone, my hood, my block. Gentrifier in complete control. Steal your land, steal your style, steal your street, steal your soul. Gentrifier got this thing on lock. My home, my zone, my hood, my block. Gentrifier in complete control. Steal your land, steal your style, steal your street. Yo, I don't know what the Jeffersons were talking about, but we ain't moving on up. We getting moved on out. No doubt. You see, to them, it's monopoly. All they want is your property. Shit. I should have bought Park Place, but now it's too late. This used to be the ghetto. Now it's prime real estate. And where the fuck am I supposed to go? I can't afford their co-ops. I can't afford their condos. They doing us like they did the Native Americans, except this time they didn't even set aside reservations. Fixing up my block in the train station, building high rises. It's gentrification. And all the little mom and pop shops bought by big corporations with no vibe or flavor. It's gentrification. And my whole damn hood's looking like colonization with less brown skin and more white skin. It's gentrification. And they look at me with scorn on the block where I was born. It happened so fast I didn't see it coming on. And now there's new maps, new lines being drawn. Because these are the days of the gentrifier. That's how I feel about gentrification. A solution. Here's what I think is happening. I don't know if it's a solution. I think it's what the city is starting to look like. I think the city is becoming an apartheid state. I think it's becoming very clear that there'll be designated areas where poor people and people of color live that have been plotted out, public housing and so on. And the rest of the city will be a place where you, if you're not wealthy, it will be impossible, not the city, but Brooklyn in particular. If you're not wealthy, if you don't have a certain financial status, you will not be able to live here. This neighborhood is a great example. So where I live now, where we're doing this is between the Tompkins and Marcy projects. This is a traditionally African-American community, Bed-Stuy. This was a neighborhood that was, considered high crime and undesirable. And really, as it stands now, the only people of color that live here anymore are the people that live in the NYCHA housing. All around it are young, hipsters and gentrifiers. And this is the case all around the city and all around Brooklyn. There are very specific areas where people of color can live. And then the rest of the borough, the rest of the city is up for grabs if you have enough money. So I foresee a vision where Brooklyn in particular is very homogenized, very separate, clearly defined neighborhoods and areas and neighborhoods where, here's the poor people of color, this is their part, and then the rest of the city is for, or the rest of the boroughs for newcomers. Yeah, it's a shame in a way. The original people in the community?
Yeah, the original people.
I mean, we're getting moved out. Can't afford to live anywhere except public housing or rent-stabilized places. The rents are amazing. They're beyond, it's mind-blowing. What used to be considered undesirable neighborhood is now quite desirable. And unless you are, upper middle class, to say the least, you won't afford to live here. I think the culture of Brooklyn has been affected. I was at a meeting recently with some folks that were from California, and they were talking about Brooklyn. They were like, Brooklyn's reputation. And I'm thinking they were referring to Brooklyn being a tough place or a hard place. And what they meant was Brooklyn reputation as far as being craft beers, pickles and beer, pickles and hipsters and bars, So even in the last 10 years, Brooklyn's reputation has changed from being this place, known as a hip hop capital or place where culture and particularly African American, Latino American street culture, that stuff is gone. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to be here in Brooklyn. It's really interesting to be a Brooklyn native. So many places that I go to now, I show up, I'm in Brooklyn, and I'm the only person from Brooklyn. That's mostly the case generally. It's a funny thing, man.